So the synthetic division worksheet wants you to find, given a factor, find all of the rest of the factors. So we're going to use x minus 1 to divide. So what do we do? What goes in the box if we're dividing by x minus 1? We put in a positive 1. And we need the coefficients from each of the terms. Positive 1x to the third, negative 5, negative 1, positive 5. The only time we do the opposite is the number in the corner is the opposite because we are taking it away from the x here. All right, then we drop down the first coefficient and we multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, and the last number is the remainder. Because the remainder is 0, that's showing us that x minus 1 is a factor. Now I'm going to put all my x's back in. Where did this 1 come from? It came from x minus 1. So I just put it back in with x minus 1. Then I'm going to put my x's back with this part. The number next to the remainder is always the constant. Then it's the x. Then it's the x squared. Now, we need to factor the quadratic. We already have one factor of x minus 1. Now we need to find the other 2 factors. Remember, if the degree is 3, I should have 3 factors. So x squared goes to x and x. Factors of 5 that subtract to get 4. Minus 5 plus 1. These are my factors. Now, in order to graph, the next thing you need to find are the zeros. The zeros are the values that make each factor equal 0. What value of x makes x minus 1 equal 0? X equals 1. What makes x minus 5 0? X equals 5. What makes x minus 1 0? X equals negative 1. If we want to graph, I need to graph the x-intercepts, which are the zeros, and the y-intercept. Where do we find the y-intercept again? That's the constant. The constant tells me the y-intercept. So these are my x-intercepts, and my y-intercept is positive 5. So I'm going to make my graph. Negative 1, my zeros, my x-intercepts, negative 1, positive 1, positive 5. My constant is my y-intercept. Degree 3 starts from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. That's number 1. This is how you do most of this worksheet. Now, if you've not done this problem, pause the video, try this problem, see how far you get, and then turn it back on. X plus 5, if it's a factor, I'm going to divide by negative 5. Then I need my coefficients, x to the third, x squared, x 15. Do your synthetic. Multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. If you don't get a 0 here, you did something wrong because it tells you it's a factor. Now I put all of my x's back in. Remember, the negative 5 came from x plus 5. This is my constant. This is my x. Put a plus in between because you need something separating your constant from your x. X squared. This part here is the depressed polynomial. The polynomial you're left with after you divide is the depressed polynomial. Now we just need to factor. X squared, I need x and x. Factors of 3 that add to get 4. 3 and 1. How do I get -4? -3, -1. These are my 3 factors. How do you find the zeros? What makes each value of x make each one equal 0? X equals, notice every single time, I don't just write -5. I write x equals -5. X equals 3. X equals 1. Then I need my constant. My y-intercept is positive 15. And typically what I do with that, I need to go -5, positive 1, 2, 3. And then I'll just go up here and say, that's 15. That's good enough. All right, -5, positive 15, positive 1, positive 3. X to the third starts from the bottom. And that's done. A factor of x plus 1. So I put -1 in the corner. If you've not done this problem, pause the video, try this one by yourself, and then use the video to check. Always drop the first number down, multiply by the corner, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Now I put my x's back in, x plus 1. Now, be careful with this. This is our constant. This is telling us we don't have any x's, so I don't need to write 0x down. I can just write x squared. Now I need to factor x squared minus 4. Remember from the worksheet last week, this can be factored into 2 parentheses. X squared is always x and x. Factors of 4 that subtract to get 0. Plus 2, minus 2. These are my 3 factors. Now we need the zeros, the value of each one that makes it equal 0. Then my constant, my y-intercept, is -4. So I need to go to -2, positive 2, positive 4. -1, -2. So I just graph my zeros and my intercepts. Start from the bottom, catch this, come back up. Done. All right, now we're given 2 factors. This one's going to take a little bit more. I'm going to start with x plus 1. So I'm going to put -1 in the corner. Do your synthetic. So So here's one of my factors. Now, when we put our x's back in, you might want to watch this next part if you've not done this, because you might not have enough space. So just kind of watch me for a minute. This is my constant. This is my x. This is my x squared. And this is x to the third. Notice we started with a quartic with x to the fourth. So that means I have 2x to the third minus 11x squared minus 1x plus 30. Now let's think about this. We don't know how to do factoring with this yet. So this is why we're going to do the synthetic again, but using now 2. So I'm going to take 2, but I'm just going to divide it into this. I'm going to put this on hold for just a minute, so just be patient. I'm going to put 2 in the corner. Do my synthetic. Drop the first one down. Multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, both times getting a remainder of 0. All right, now I'm going to bring down my x plus 1, bring down x minus 2. Then I'm going to put my x's back into my depressed polynomial. Negative 15 is the constant. Negative 7 is the x. 2x squared. Now I'm ready to factor the quadratic. So you had to do this process twice because we started with x to the fourth. And x to the fourth means I'm going to have 4 factors. How do I get 2x squared? This is a leading coefficient one. This is where you could use those boxes. 2x and x. What multiplies to make 15? 5 and 3. Where does the 7 come from? 2x times 5 is 10x. 3 times x is 3x. And when I subtract, I get 7. 10 minus 3 is 7. So the 10 needs to be negative. So the 5, that makes the 10. 3 is positive. So then find the zeros. X equals negative 1. X equals 2. Remember, if you don't know what makes 2x plus 3 equals 0, just write it off to the side. Set it equal to 0. Subtract 3. Divide by 2. Negative 3 halves is just negative 1.5. And x equals 5. All right, now for my graph, let me make room here. So x is negative 1 here. Negative, 1.5 is here, in between 1 and 2. X equals 2. X equals 5. Then our constant, I kind of covered it up. Our y-intercept is 30. So kind of way up here, I'm just going to mark 30. Now, x to the fourth is more of a W shape. We start up top, come down, catch both of these, go back up to get the 30, and there's my W. So that's an x to the fourth example. You have to do your synthetic twice so that you get to a quadratic that you can factor. Okay. So it says for the polynomial, we know x minus 5 is a factor. If they tell us this is a factor, we just need to find the rest. We can do this one of a few ways. Now, probably the way that I did it, I did the synthetic. So I'm going to divide out the x minus 5. And because x minus 5 is a factor, I need to get 0 at the end. All right, so this is an example of x to the 4th. That means this is x to the 3rd. So I need to figure out, are one of these factors, okay? So let's maybe try -1. So let me put -1 in the corner, and I'm going to try -1 with the cube. 1, x to the 3rd, 3x squared, -6, -8. If -1 gets me a 0, then I know x plus 1 is a factor. Draw a line. Since I got 0 here, that means x plus 1 is a factor. All right, so I'm going to put my x's back in. I'm going to keep my x minus 5. I'm going to put x plus 1 back with my -1. Then this is x squared plus 2x minus 8. And we can find the other factors by factoring the quadratic. So what are my other two factors? Break apart x squared, factors of 8 that subtract to get 2, plus 4 minus 2. So +4, -2. So x minus 5 was a factor. Degree 4 means I should have 3 other ones. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is just a matching problem. Think about what we did in class the other day. That opening problem where we had to figure out the constant. If you multiply the constants, -2 times -3 times +7 equals 42. That means number 4 is letter A. So go ahead and figure out the rest of them, and if you want to check with me in class, I want you to try this one out. Now remember, when you get down here, you have to multiply the 1/2 times your constants. And when you get down here, you're going to have to multiply by 5 or -5 to get your constant.